You ever meet a woman who seems flawless on the surface? Confident, outgoing, magnetic, someone you just can't take your eyes off. But deep down, something feels off? Maybe it's the way she talks about past relationships, the way she reacts to certain situations, or just an uneasiness you can't explain. Your gut is trying to tell you something, but most guys dismiss it, thinking they're overanalyzing or being paranoid. Here's the thing. Ignoring that instinct isn't harmless. It can cost you months, even years, of emotional energy, wasted time, and sometimes your self-respect. The truth is, women leave traces in their behavior, tiny patterns that hint at their past and reveal how they handle intimacy, trust, and commitment. In this video, I'm going to break down 7 clear signs that a woman may not be ready to commit in the way you want. And the 4th one, that's the one that can trap men faster than anything else. Stick around, and by the end, you'll know exactly what to look for. Subscribe to Stoic95 and hit the bell icon. Number 1, she rushes intimacy. And I don't just mean physical attraction. This is about how quickly she lets you in, emotionally or physically, without letting a proper foundation form. Some women act as if emotional closeness is effortless, like you've known each other for years after just a few days of dating. At first, it can feel thrilling. You think, wow, she's confident. She really likes me. That initial spark can be intoxicating, making you feel special and desired. But here's the problem. When someone consistently skips the natural process of building trust and intimacy, it's not liberation or confidence. It's a pattern that can leave you feeling disconnected. Real closeness isn't instant. It develops slowly through shared experiences, small moments of vulnerability, and mutual understanding. It's about layering trust over time, seeing each other through highs and lows, and learning the rhythm of each other's emotions. When that process is rushed, you miss the parts that make a relationship deep and lasting. Watch her signals closely. Does she pause, blush, or show hesitation when the conversation turns personal or intimate? Those small moments of vulnerability are real indicators of emotional engagement. Or does she breeze through it, as if she's rehearsed these interactions 100 times before? That's a red flag, because it can indicate a pattern of mechanical intimacy rather than meaningful connection. Instant comfort can feel exciting, but it's different from genuine chemistry. Think about it like this. If every first date feels like a deep connection, eventually you start to confuse familiarity with emotional closeness. You might feel bonded, but the bond is built on speed and routine, not depth and trust. And here's the kicker. Once emotional depth is missing early on, it's hard to create it later. You can't force intimacy or make a shallow bond suddenly profound. The relationship may feel electric at first, but underneath, it's unstable. You might find yourself craving a connection that isn't truly there because the foundation, trust, vulnerability, and emotional investment was skipped. That's why recognizing this pattern early is crucial. Don't mistake fast comfort and confidence for true emotional compatibility. A woman who rushes intimacy might be seeking validation, excitement, or control rather than forming a meaningful connection. And if you ignore this, you're setting yourself up for frustration, disappointment, and a bond that never really has a chance to grow into something lasting. Number 2, she has emotional walls. This is one of the most subtle but powerful patterns you can notice, and it's easy for a man to miss if he's caught up in attraction. Some women can charm effortlessly, share stories from their life, make you laugh, and even create moments that feel intimate and connected. On the surface, it feels like you're getting close, like she's letting you in. But underneath that charm, there's a barrier, a wall built from past hurt, betrayal, or heartbreak. This isn't the same as healthy boundaries, which protect both partners while allowing trust to grow gradually. This wall is different. It's a defense mechanism designed to keep people out, a way to avoid vulnerability after repeated emotional pain. You'll start noticing it in small ways at first. Conversations rarely go deep. When you try to explore meaningful topics, her fears, her childhood experiences, the moments that shaped her, she might deflect with humor, give vague or surface-level answers, or subtly change the subject. She's allowing a sense of closeness without actually letting you access the core of who she is. Meanwhile, you're opening up, sharing your ambitions, your struggles, your past heartbreaks, thinking that by being vulnerable, you'll encourage the same from her. But what happens instead is imbalance. She reacts to your openness, but she doesn't reciprocate in kind. She might listen, nod, and respond with empathy, but it's often a practiced reaction, not true engagement. Over time, this creates a one-sided emotional investment. You're giving more than you're receiving, pouring energy into a relationship where part of her remains unreachable. When conflict arises, which it always does, the wall comes fully into play. Instead of working through problems together, she may shut down, withdraw, or decide the relationship isn't worth the emotional risk. That wall is protecting her, not the connection between you. Loving someone who has these walls can be exhausting, even if it's subtle. It drains you without you realizing it because you're constantly reaching for something she's not giving. You start questioning yourself, wondering if the distance is your fault or if she's truly invested. The truth is, the barrier isn't about you. It's about her experiences and her way of keeping herself safe. Recognizing emotional walls early is crucial. It's not about shaming her or expecting perfection. It's about understanding whether she's capable of the depth of connection you're looking for and whether your emotional energy is being respected. Number 3, she has a heavy male network. Now, don't get me wrong. Having male friends isn't automatically a problem. Everyone needs friends, and platonic friendships with the opposite sex can be healthy. But here's the key. It's not about the friendships themselves. It's about the pattern and the purpose behind them. Some guys will hear, "Oh, they're just friends," and accept it at face value, assuming everything is harmless. But patterns matter. When a woman's life is consistently full of male friends, ex-boyfriends, or men who seem to always be reaching out to her, it can point to something deeper than casual socializing. Often, it becomes a subtle form of validation. Even when she's in a committed relationship, having multiple men paying attention keeps her ego boosted. It creates a constant reminder that she's desired and attractive, and that attention can easily take the place of emotional investment in the man she's dating. Watch the timing of it, too. Do these men tend to show up right when there's tension in your relationship? Do you notice that the calls, messages, or social media interactions spike after an argument or disagreement? If so, it's not a coincidence. It's a pattern that can blur loyalty. The attention isn't always overt or flirtatious, but even casual admiration or being liked online creates a quiet pull that can shift her focus. And here's the tricky part. It can feel subtle and innocent, so you might overlook it until it's become a recurring issue. You might hear stories about one guy after another, or she might constantly reference past male friends in ways that seem casual but are really keeping you aware that there's a backup network ready if needed. This matters because emotional availability in a serious relationship requires focus and prioritization. When a woman is plugged into a constant male network, her attention, energy, and emotional resources are divided. You might feel it as subtle distance, a lack of full commitment, or even small insecurities creeping in when you realize she's still deeply connected with multiple men. Over time, that imbalance can erode trust. It's not about controlling her friendships. It's about noticing when attention becomes a pattern that affects the foundation of your relationship. Men who recognize this early, understand the impact, and set clear boundaries for themselves and the relationship, protect their energy and avoid getting caught in a dynamic where they're competing with an unseen network. Number 4, she uses affection as leverage. This is one of the most dangerous patterns to watch for because it's subtle and can completely hijack your emotions without you even realizing it. Some women, whether consciously or unconsciously, turn closeness into a tool to get what they want. It starts small. Maybe she's annoyed with you over something minor, and suddenly she softens, smiles, or touches you in a way that makes you feel like everything is okay. You might think, wow, she's warm and forgiving. But what's really happening is a transaction. The affection comes with a condition. It's designed to dissolve tension, make you apologize, or push you back into her favor. On the flip side, when she's upset or wants to make a point, that same affection vanishes. Suddenly, the warmth you felt is replaced with distance, coldness, or emotional withdrawal. It's a classic push-pull dynamic, and it's addictive. Your mind starts chasing the highs of closeness and recoiling from the lows of distance, often without realizing why. The key thing to understand here is timing. When every smile, touch, or kind word is tied to an outcome, whether it's getting you to comply, apologize, or feel guilty, it's no longer genuine. True intimacy is spontaneous and mutual. It isn't handed out as a reward or withheld as punishment. When affection becomes a tool, you start learning patterns unconsciously. You may begin adjusting your behavior constantly, trying to earn her warmth or avoid her coldness. That's not love, that's conditioning. Your emotions are being leveraged, and the relationship becomes a performance where you're always playing by someone else's rules. The danger is, at first, it feels natural. You might even admire her confidence or emotional intelligence, not realizing she's using it strategically. Over time, however, it erodes trust, creates anxiety, and keeps you locked in a cycle of chasing approval instead of building a real connection. Watch for the signs. If her affection seems to arrive only after you give in, apologize, or meet her demands, and disappears whenever she's upset or wants control, it's transactional. It's a pattern rooted in experience and learned behavior, often from past relationships where similar tactics worked. Recognizing it early is crucial. Once you see it, you can stop playing the game and reclaim your emotional power. Real intimacy doesn't manipulate, it connects. Don't confuse the performance of closeness with actual connection. Number 5, she knows how to read and influence men. And I'm not talking about simple observation here. This is strategic, almost like she has a manual on how to push all the right buttons. She notices everything about you, your strengths, the things you're proud of, your insecurities, your habits, the way you react to certain words or actions. And then, almost effortlessly, she adjusts her behavior to keep you engaged. At first, it feels incredible. You feel understood, validated, and special, like someone truly gets you in a way no one else does. Compliments hit exactly where your ego lives. Attention comes at the right moments, and suddenly it seems like she's in sync with your mind. You think you've met someone rare, someone who just clicks with you perfectly. But here's the thing, patterns don't lie. If you start noticing that her attention isn't consistent, sometimes overwhelming, sometimes distant, you're dealing with manipulation disguised as connection. It's subtle, but powerful. High highs make you feel euphoric. Low lows leave you questioning yourself, doubting your worth, craving her approval again. That cycle, when repeated over time, is addictive. You start chasing her moods, her reactions, her affection, thinking that's the relationship you want. But it's not love, it's control. Emotional volatility, strategically timed attention, and carefully measured affection are tools to shape your behavior, not to build a partnership. Recognizing this early is crucial because once it's embedded, you're trapped without even realizing it. You're investing your emotions into a game she's already played many times before, and the more you try to stabilize things, the deeper you get pulled into the pattern. Awareness is your first line of defense. When you see the signs, calculated praise, sudden withdrawal, strategic validation, you can step back, protect your energy, and avoid falling for a cycle that masquerades as intimacy, but is really just control in disguise. Number 6, she openly talks about her past with no discretion. Let's be clear, this isn't about judging her choices or shaming her history. Everyone has a past, and it's normal to share experiences to build connection. The concern is when she treats intimate or personal stories as casual conversation, almost like entertainment. When a woman does this, it reveals how she views emotional boundaries and privacy. Emotional intimacy isn't just about honesty. It's also about respect, trust, and knowing what belongs in private versus what belongs in public. If she talks freely about exes, past relationships, or intimate experiences without any sense of care, that might indicate she doesn't fully understand the weight of emotional sharing. It's one thing to casually mention a funny story from a past date, and another to give vivid details about private experiences like they're part of a casual highlight reel. When this happens, it can subtly affect your connection. You start to wonder whether the same level of openness or lack of boundaries applies to your relationship. Will she treat your personal stories, your vulnerabilities, or your intimate moments with the same casual attitude? That's where trust and safety start to feel fragile. Another red flag is her reaction if you suggest some discretion. Does she dismiss it as old-fashioned or accuse you of being insecure? That's not just defensiveness, it's a mindset pattern. Women who consistently normalize oversharing often view emotional closeness differently. They might see it as performance or social currency rather than a private bond. Recognizing this early helps you understand how she handles sensitive topics and whether she's capable of protecting the intimacy you share. Emotional boundaries are about respect, and if she doesn't value discretion, it's a clear signal to pay attention before investing too deeply. Number 7. Her relationships are short and intense. This is one of the trickiest patterns to spot because it often feels exciting at first. When a woman consistently jumps from one relationship to the next, burning through connections in just a few months, it's rarely a coincidence. These quick, high-energy romances aren't random, they're a blueprint. They reveal someone who thrives on the rush of attraction, the thrill of new attention, and the emotional highs that come with being desired. The problem is that these kinds of relationships often skip the essential work required for long-term stability. Real love and lasting partnerships aren't built on sparks alone. They're forged through patience, negotiation, and the willingness to navigate challenges together. They require staying when things get uncomfortable, showing up when novelty fades, and choosing to invest even when the butterflies aren't flaring. If a woman has a history of short-term, intense relationships, it signals she may not have developed the skills to handle the stages that come after the honeymoon phase. The everyday realities of commitment, compromise, and consistent emotional presence. When attraction burns hot and fast, the initial connection can feel intoxicating, making it easy to ignore the deeper signs of instability. But as a man, it's crucial to see the pattern for what it is. Repeated cycles of rapid escalation and abrupt endings suggest a craving for the excitement of being wanted rather than the slower, steadier work of building something meaningful. Stability, loyalty, and emotional depth aren't automatic. They're earned day by day through shared experiences, trust, and consistent effort. Falling for someone who has never experienced or built these foundations puts you at risk of riding the same roller coaster of highs and heartbreaks. Recognizing this pattern early gives you the power to decide whether the relationship aligns with your long-term goals or whether walking away now protects your emotional future before it's too late. When you step back and look at these 7 signs together, a clear picture forms. This isn't about judging women. It's about recognizing patterns that matter to you. Emotional walls, rushing intimacy, male validation, manipulation of affection, control, lack of discretion, and short-term history. Each tells a story about how a woman handles connection. Too many men ignore these signals because attraction blinds them. They hope they'll be the exception. But patterns don't change because you care. They change when someone consciously works on them. Recognizing these signs early protects you from wasted time and heartbreak. Subscribe to Stoic 95 and hit the bell icon. At the end of the day, your standards are non-negotiable. Attraction is natural, but emotional security, trust, and mutual respect are earned. Pay attention to the signals, trust your gut, and protect your energy. Walk away if the patterns don't align with the relationship you want. You're building a life, not just chasing temporary excitement. Recognize patterns, make conscious choices, and invest only in people capable of matching your commitment. Your future depends on it.